Which one would you be more likely to go to for subjects about self defense? Would you rather A, go to a big, strong, fast, aggressive guy who made it all the way to the end of his boxing career undefeated and he's a legend and put in the Hall of Fame, but he's never been in a single street fight, not even one? Or would you rather listen to the weak kid who was constantly at a disadvantage, and yet, even though they were targeted hundreds of times throughout their life, survived and made it out through almost every single situation relatively uninjured? Personally, I would be listening to the person who survived having the disadvantage, because self defense can sometimes involve hurting the other person, but if your goal is always hurting the other person, odds are you're the one winning all the time, and so you don't even need self defense. So they're not going to know how to tell someone weaker how to make up for things. Their advice is going to be work hard, dedication, do all the drills, listen to your coach, all the same advice. But if you want real advice on how to survive, and even more, how to at least make an impression upon the people who attack you to maybe prevent it again in the future, you're gonna want to talk to the guy who's experienced that. And that is me. Now, the first time I was like 10 in like fifth grade, and then all the way through until I was probably 14, 15, or about 14, those few years, I got jumped like at least 20 times by groups of people, and many more times I've got bullied or beat up by one person. But here's the thing, is that in those years, I never got injured because my instincts were already focused on protection of myself. Now, I did a very bad job at hurting other people at that point in time. At least, if I was outnumbered, there was basically no way I was going to hurt someone unless they broke up. But I made it through all of these crazy things because I was focused on just the instinct to protect, right? Like when someone went for a punch and my peripheral saw it coming, I just naturally did that. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen other people with zero training do the same stuff, right? One time a kid ran up behind me. I'd never met this person. It was my first day of school. Ran up behind me, grabbed my neck, put me in a chokehold. My first instinct, without even knowing this, it just boom, took the arms off my head, grabbed, kneed him. That kid did not try to hurt me again, even though he was still kind of intimidating to me and I didn't realize I had won. He didn't bother me like that again. There were times that people would jump me and I'd grab a rock or a stick or some kind of weapon and I'd start chasing them and they'd run off. And I would think, fuck, I didn't get to beat any of them up. But I survived. Like, I was hard on myself at the time because it was no fun to be the victim. But ultimately, I did better than they did because I was focused on self-defense. And so, when it comes to street fights, you want to focus on self-defense because what did I already point out? A stranger I'd never met before ran up behind me and grabbed me in a headlock. Now, it turns out that they weren't really trying to fuck me up or anything, but they could have been, and other people did later on, and some of them were by surprise. So, when it comes to street fights, you have to realize that, for one, there's no rules. Like, someone can just, bam, check you in the nuts, or they can just, jump up on you and grab you, or they can just do whatever they want. They can grab a weapon, they can outnumber you, it's whatever. So if you're in a street fight, you have to be aware, focus on self-defense, because that's how you survive. Whether you win or lose is irrelevant if you don't survive. Like, if you killed them but you still died, you still lost. So it's better to protect yourself than to hurt them. And now I'm going to tell you, I've been in so many street altercations after becoming an adult, or even around 16 years old and older. Being in the streets and being homeless and being skinny and being perceived as an easy target, I would be super stealthy and act like, I wasn't going to do shit, and I'd just be super chill, and I'd always just kind of stand like this. I kind of lower my center of gravity, and I just kind of hang like this, So I didn't even look. I even looked less intimidating than I already did, and I would use it as a weapon of surprise. Because if I went out attacking people, that's revealing my game and being unprepared because there might be other people who are going to back them up, or it might come around later, right? And so I didn't have the opportunity to go squash everything I felt needed squashing because I wasn't physically fit enough to challenge several people at once with weapons. You understand? So, you can learn, so you gotta be aware there's no rules. Anything can happen. People are gonna play unfair. Some people are gonna want you dead. 3 people have tried to kill me. All right? And one of them is being stabbed right here. So there's no rules, right? That means look out for weapons, look out for surprise attacks, be on guard at least a tiny bit. Like I know everyone says, I don't want to live on guard. I live on guard all the time, and I still socialize. I still get to know people. I still get to build bonds and connections. You can be on guard and do both. Like it's just, can you compartmentalize and have it separate? You know. So it hasn't caused any damage to me to be on alert, like the way other people describe. They're paranoid and can't feel comfortable anywhere. I'm fine. If anything, living that way for so long, I just got used to it. And no, I'm not always thinking everyone's out to get me, but I consider it a possibility that anyone, everywhere could do something, right? And so I'm always paying attention. Like, I don't, like, how people run into each other in the shopping mart and, like, they get mad and they're all in each other's way? That doesn't happen to me because I'm paying attention. I can be walking like this and dodge people right here without even looking because I can hear them. I'm paying attention, right? So anything can happen, surprise attacks, weapons, all that. Now you got to think about environment, right? We could be in this environment, like here, just a little small backyard with sticks and rocks and trees, and I could get my head cracked open on that rock, or he could pick up the rock and hit me with it, or I could be slammed into that table that my phone is sitting on right now, and that would break a couple bones, right? Those are things that are not going to happen in an MMA ring or a boxing ring, So your environment can be very different. You can be in an open space for miles and no one's there, and so you don't have anything to grab onto, so if they're stronger than you and get on top, you're just stuck on bottom until you're dead. Or you could be in a phone booth where you have all these options to grab and use leverage, and now you're able to use your brain to outmaneuver somebody stronger than you because you can use your legs at different angles. You don't have to push off the ground. You can push off a wall. You can push off the ceiling, right? So your environment's going to be crazy. You don't know what they're coming with. You don't know if they got weapons or if they want to kill you, if there's a bunch of them, whatever. They could even get someone to know you personally in order to set you up. I've seen it happen so many times. I don't know if y'all are going to be able to hear me with this plane going overhead. So we got the fact that shit's crazy, there's no rules, there's environmental changes, and now we got to consider other things, right? Now I want to get into a little bit of why some combat sports will actually get you hurt in self-defense and street fight situations. Now, for one, is in boxing, for example, a lot of people are comfortable with their glove like this, or like this. That is usually not enough, because they can hit you a bunch of other places or get right in between your guard. Like, the gloves aren't on, the physics are different. And things hit harder because it's at a smaller point, so each strike is going to be, more powerful, technically. So, you're going to be trained different things in different combat sports that will cause you to lose. Like, for example, another thing in boxing that seems harmless but can get you fucked up is how the fact that they put the foot out. Now, someone who's smart might just duck and grab your leg and boom. And because you only did boxing, you don't have ground game, donezo, right? So street fighting includes everything, and that's why I practice that more than anything else. Like, yes, I'll learn boxing, wrestling, BJJ, Sistema, all these techniques that I can use and learn the principles, but at the end of the day, I'm using my body, my instincts, my choice, my way, right? So now I'm telling you about how the gloves can be a problem. So let's see. Like I showed you how the leg being output could be a problem. Like another thing is like in boxing they teach you all these tight angles and all these ways to walk around someone. What if you're in the phone booth and now you're stuck using that and you don't have any like now like you can't, or what if you're stuck in a hallway and you only move like this and you can't move like this because you're trained not to. Like in Systema, they train you to move to fight how you walk because that way you can stay moving fluidly without wasting a bunch of energy or getting caught with too much amplitude going in one direction. You know, so street fights are so different than combat sports, and you know you have to be aware that like you could learn boxing and wrestling, and that's still only like 30% of self-defense. Like the physical, it's like 30% of the physical, you know, because you still got environment, you still got weapons, you still got people being outnumbered. Boxing and wrestling don't work so good when you're surrounded. You're not trained to fight people that way. Systema works pretty well when you're surrounded because you can punch that way, that way, that way, and you're hitting them all with decent force. And it's not about knocking them out, it's about keeping the initiative so that you're the one on offense. That's why I love Systema, but I'm getting off topic. So, yeah. So now you're aware of how the environment can be different, how people's mentalities can be different, about how literally the gear and the techniques you use can set you up for failure. You know, like, I am not a tough guy. You know, like, I'm a smart guy, and I'm a disciplined guy, and I'm very self-aware, but I am not tough. Like, yes, I have kind of a high pain tolerance, but, like, I'm not physically strong or have a whole bunch of endurance compared to other people. Like, I'm the target, you know? Like, and so the things I use, you know, boxing allows me to maximize my power straight down the line using head-to-head force. You know, that's great, you know, for some things. And then Systema lets me move around side to side more and kind of flow better. And then wrestling is what kind of gives me the concept of maintaining my legs at a base at all times, and making sure to use the strength that's actually in them and not just bouncing around like a butterfly, sting like a bee, because bees don't wrestle, butterflies don't wrestle, you know? So basically what I'm getting at is if you're wanting to get involved, or if you're wanting to be prepared for street fights, you need to be prepared for anything. Like, that's why it's so crazy. Like, you need to be prepared for someone pointing a gun at your head or putting it in your mouth. Like, and no, it is not a technique that'll save you. It's going to be mental and communicative. Like, if you can convince them in some way, whether it be through your body language, your energy, your tone of voice, if you can convince them that you're either not a threat or that in some way they would be better off with you being alive or unharmed, take it. Use that. You know, like, and I want to say now is that, in my opinion, if you start fights and you don't have a real good reason, like somebody was hurt or killed or raped or something like that, don't start fights. Because if you do, you're the one we're watching out for and you need to be put down. So, you know, I feel like I'm rambling here, but yeah, I've got to write some stuff down to make it more concise. Because I have a lifetime of experience, but not a whole lot of experience explaining it to people who don't have experience. So, yeah, that'll be coming soon, hopefully.